I'd like to bring in now consumer expert and CEO of RILA Global Consulting, Tsvetta Kaleynska. I'm so sorry. I don't want to mess up your name there. I do want to let you know if the president does start speaking, we are going to have to interrupt you here. But what is your reaction right now to the ruling? What do you think this means for the American consumer? What do you think this means? What do you think we'll hear from the president?
I can tell you what the consumers are actually saying. So last year, tariffs were actually one of the most discussed topics among U.S. consumers, with over 30 million mentions on social media coming from Americans. So importantly, consumers were incredibly negative and still are incredibly negative when they think of tariffs, with over 40% of all of these discussions being accounted for negative sentiment. Fast forward to today and the news of today. I literally analyzed data from the past 3 hours, and there were over 100,000 Americans who went on a social media platform and expressed their opinion or reacted to the Supreme Court's latest decision. Now, the difference here, though, is actually that 56% of all posts were negative. And what particularly notable about all of this is actually the framing. So while basically the 43% of the posts that I've analyzed with negative sentiment, basically the majority of conversations are happening outside of political framing, and they were not associated with President Trump, which is very important. So in other words, what this means is that consumers see tariffs and tariff as a whole is moving away from anything politically related in terms of association to political figures, and they're just becoming more and more embedded in how Americans explain basically those persistently high prices every day.
So we know that the president had talked about issuing those tariff rebate checks so American consumers could benefit from all of the money he said that the tariffs were bringing in. Do you think that's out the window now?
I mean, I have to tell you what consumers are saying. So consumers are quite concerned about several things. Obviously, high prices, and when they get to the store, how much are they actually spending for what they used to spend prior? Today, the shift of the conversation that I see actually matters, because what it signals is that tariffs are no longer purely viewed through the partisan lens. So basically, they're increasingly moving through that wallet first lens, which is the everyday consumer reality. And we saw that last year as well. English-speaking and Spanish-speaking consumers in the U.S. are consistently describing tariffs as very much a hidden tax that's burdening them, and it's very much centered across cost, inflation, and household strength. So rebate or no rebate, I think the consumers are really basically pressured by what we have been hearing, and they instantly associate the word tariff to something negative, as I mentioned earlier, with the high negative sentiment that we see online.
So what about tariff refunds? Do you think that all of this money will somehow have to be refunded? And if so, who sees the refund? Is it consumers? Is it businesses, do you think, within the various industries? How do you think that would even work?
So when I analyzed small business discussions several weeks ago in relation to tariffs, there was one clear signal from small business discussions owners who went online and talked about tariffs and that same rebate and basically money that they would assume would be coming back to them. They don't see that as basically any type of flashlight of hope whatsoever. So I don't actually think that consumers necessarily see that coming to them. I do have to say that interestingly, among the findings that I saw is that actually markets, I know the stock market today is pretty much rallying. Consumers in conversations in relation to, again, that news and what we're about to see are very much tied to telling us a very cautious story about what they think will happen to markets and actually to their future pension funds and, of course, their savings. So I do have to say that, again, tariffs are moving in the consumer mind away from that politics narrative and much more into that everyday affordability reality and anxiety, which is really fueling the consumer mindset these days.
So the U.S. Chamber of Commerce released a statement saying, in part, that this decision is welcome news for businesses and consumers. From your perspective, is this good news for business owners?
I I would hope so, as a small business owner myself, that this will actually be, again, some ray of hope in what consumer and small businesses have been basically suffering over the last year with all of the tariff news. I would very much be looking forward to hearing more updates. And again, America is built on the American dream of entrepreneurship and small business owners. So let's hope that this will impact everyone positively.
And last question for you. The New York Federal Reserve said 90% of the cost of these tariffs were taken on by businesses, were taken on by consumers. We know that the White House has said otherwise. From your perspective, which side is right here? Has the American economy taken a hit? Does the revenue generated kind of line up, do you think, with what the president has touted so far?
That is such a great question. So what I've seen from consumer discussions, again, both personal discussions and owners of businesses who went online and talked about it, I have very clearly seen that everyone feels that basically the cost is being passed down to them. And we actually started seeing that trend back in the back to school season last year, when, if you recall, once the tariffs were announced in Q1 last year, immediately there was a surge of discussions about being back to school and buying back to school products actually back in May and June instead of your regular shopping season. So that's the first time that we actually saw businesses and consumers talk about that cost being added back to them. And out of worry, they started literally piling up and stocking up on products in anticipation that the cost will continuously be passed down. Through my analysis during the whole 2025, including some of the holiday seasons such as Thanksgiving and Christmas, that same narrative from consumers came back into the season basically when they said that, yes, the same high taxes and tariff cost is being passed down back to my price tag as I go to the store, and there are additional charges that they see or higher amounts that they're paying for the same products that they paid for last year. So that's what I've been seeing. I have consistently quarter over quarter been analyzing tariff discussions, and I do have to say that this is a very sticky topic on the consumer mindset in the U.S., and consumers are currently seeing it as basically price tag is coming to me and I need to figure out how to handle it, hoping that, again, like with some of the updates and the government changes and news that are coming out, that some of that will be softened. But with the sticky inflation, with some of the other news that we've seen, the consumer right now feels very pressured.
Tsvetta, thank you so much for giving us some of your time today.
Thank you.
And the president is expected to speak truly at any moment after that 6-3 ruling from the